Hey, everybody. Welcome back to KISH YZ, kicking it in the second half. We got episode 7.5 or 7 Part 2, where we're going to pick up with our episode called Foundation Pieces, where we discuss a potential scenario of an expansion in the NBA where we're choosing potential players to start a new franchise with. I'm D. This is Groot. We got Hugh. Say what up, people.
What's up, everybody?
Say what up to the people.
What up to the people?
There you go. I like it. And we also have our special guest once more, returning back. Give it up to YB36, aka your bud.
Hey, gamers.
Any shout outs you want to give quickly as a plug to start the show off? Go ahead.
So, big news today. If you come over to YourBud36 on Twitch, give a sub. We got a brand new emote just dropped today. Big slam. You definitely got to check it out. The designer who made it did an awesome job. Big shout out to D over here who did the sketch work for it. It looks bomb. And for a simple sub, you get no ads when you come to see my streams. And I'm going to hopefully entertain you. And you get to use this bomb emote on any channel you want. So come check it out.
Oh, yeah, definitely check that out. And I'm interested to see how it was finalized. Like you said, I did a rough sketch, so I'll take partial credit for the originality of it. But, he did have somebody who finished the design digitally for him to be able to use it on the Twitch format. So, yeah, without further ado, like I said, this is Foundation Pieces Part 2. And let's just do a recap of what we chose as far as players that we listed offhand towards the end of the last episode. Hugh, you got your list there?
Yeah. So am I doing both teams again, or am I just
quick recap real quick of who you picked, and then we'll go back and do an explanation. I just want a round robin here
for my both teams, right?
Sure, whatever you have.
Okay.
What do you mean by both teams? Go ahead and explain that.
Well, I thought we talked about combining the two into one.
Okay, so what were your original two, and then we can come back and do the one.
Well, my original two teams, my build for the future teams was Luka Doncic, Jokic, and Jason Tatum, and then my build to win now was Joel Embiid, Damian Lillard, and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Okay, and B, what did you have for yours?
So I had my build for the future being Trae Young, Ja Morant, and Zion Williamson. And for my win now, I had LeBron, Damian Lillard, and Kawhi Leonard.
Okay, so obviously we're missing a personnel here. We're missing Cousin Fred tonight. He was unable to make it. So it kind of spoils the concept as far as the direction we wanted to do with this episode. But when I had chose my three, I had also stated that my three was because I was building for the future and also for the present. So I guess we're kind of going to base the episode around that concept. My three were LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and LaMelo Ball. So that's why I'm wearing the Hornets gear here. And like I said, I wanted to do it a little bit different because I was like, we'll build now to try to win and then also for the future. So if I just, do a little explaining on my end, I mean, LeBron James, obviously being like a modern GOAT of basketball, I don't think I can go wrong there picking him up. I mean, the guy's got pretty great health. He might play till he's 45. So why not try to pick him up if he's free? And, great piece to start with. It can basically play any position he wants to on the floor. So I definitely want him. And then I follow that up with Kevin Durant. I wanted a player that just, another player that can be his own individual and not really have a tremendous counter as far as anybody who can guard him. And like I say, anybody who can duplicate his ability. He's a very unique basketball player, what they would consider a unicorn type of player. So as long as he's healthy, I'd want him on the court. Like I said, just somebody who's basically unguardable in most cases. And to pair him with LeBron, I think we saw that a couple times in the Olympics and one of the All-Star games, the 2020 All-Star game, I think. And then LaMelo Ball, I had threw him in there because, he's doing pretty well this year in this rookie season. Looks like he might be getting the Rookie of the Year award. We'll find out. But yeah, he's just somebody I really like his court vision because I like what Lonzo does, his older brother. And I felt like, well, if I can go a tad bit younger and he's already showing what he can do as a rookie, that this would provide a means for him to, get better as he progresses in the league for years to come. So playing alongside the likes of LeBron and Kevin Durant, I think will obviously help his game tremendously, as well as any veterans you would backfill the team with off the bench that just kind of give them inside knowledge and how to play the game. But yeah, I just kind of thought that this team would be in position to win now because of LeBron and Kevin Durant alone. And then, like I said, you just add other players around them. And just depending on what the other teams are looking like, these would be the top 2 players in the league right now. So, like I said, I don't think I could go wrong there. And then just looking for the future, my silver lining here with this team would be that if they are winning and you have the cap space, that hopefully this would actually draw other free agents in the offseason, maybe not the immediate one, but one down the road. So you can kind of like have a domino effect here where you're kind of building the team upon building the team. And it just prepares you better for the future for when LeBron does retire at age 51 and Kevin Durant retires, maybe 3 years down the road and LaMelo Ball has gotten better. So, it's hard to say who would come about, but like I said, if you develop a winning culture early, then that can put you in line for some big name free agents or players like that if you're a team that's not trying to tank early as far as relying on the draft only. Do y'all have any thoughts, or y'all want to just go straight into y'all's team?
I think your team's pretty good. I don't really have too much to say about it. I mean, obviously, LeBron and KD are great picks. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them, except KD's injury history. But if he's healthy, I think your team's stacked. LaMelo's an interesting choice. Like you said, he's a hell of a rookie, and he's doing great things. He's getting better as the season goes along. So I like your team.
The bonus thing for me, I don't see any reports about this. I don't really pay that closely attention to LaMelo Ball, but it could be a case where he might still be growing. So even though he's a point guard, what if we had like a 6'9" Ben Simmons type of height-wise point guard playing at that position now? So, that's another thing I could also consider when talking about this argument. B?
I like the picks. We've seen LeBron and KD play well together, like I say, in all-star games and in the Olympics multiple times. Their dynamic is surprisingly efficient, despite them never playing together in the league. It would be interesting to see them running a franchise together. It would be, who would you guard? It's just, who's guarding them? It's just crazy. LaMelo Ball, obviously is the standout rookie in my opinion this year, and he's the most apparent talent out of the balls. I do like Lonzo's court vision and passing, but LaMelo's already got that, and he's a better shooter and more aggressive and bigger size. So I think that's a good building block in the future. And again, I think that if you set up that winning culture, which, getting your value veterans to come in, getting your drafting for shooting, because you wouldn't really need the athleticism. You would need shooters, and those would be easier to come by than athletic players. And also looking at finding a coach that could balance the personalities of those three. If you have that, you've got success probably 5 to 7 years at least, I would think.
I know you talked about LeBron for one of your teams. Do you want to just go ahead and go into the merger of the teams you had stated earlier?
Yeah. So I have some notes down here. And I was looking at how I could set these up as a 3. And obviously, LeBron is a good pick because not only is he the most all-around player in the league at this moment, but but he also makes the players around him better and accountable. And I think for that reason, I would go younger because he's done really good things with the young players in LA. He did great things with the young players in Cleveland. And he made a lot of the players that were young in Miami look better as well. So I think putting young players with LeBron has shown that it works. And so I would put Ja Morant and Zion Williamson, two of the most dynamic young people in the game. No disrespect to Trae Young. I think he's going to be great. But I think Ja Morant and Zion Williamson fit good with what makes LeBron successful. You've got a scoring point guard, and you've got a versatile, athletic big man. Those two things with LeBron James, that equals success for years. And with as young as those guys are and as fit and healthy as LeBron still is, I'd say they would dominate at least the next 3, if not 5 years, on their talent alone developing together. So that's what I would go with long term as far as that with LeBron, Ja, and Zion.
I definitely like those picks as well because, Zion, we talk about his durability, but I mean, his biggest problem is just the opposite of what Ja might need to work on. Just he needs to condition, maybe, shed a few pounds just so he can have that longevity on the court. And then Ja maybe just add a little bit more muscle so he can have some impact protection when he's trying to dunk on everybody in the league as far as marking down on his hit list of centers. So, yeah, an interesting dynamic. And, yeah, LeBron basically fits with anybody. So definitely pairing him with 2 young guys who, just to point out, Ja Morant and Zion Williamson played AAU ball together. So they have a history, a small sample of playing together. So their court time together, it's going to be natural chemistry in my opinion. But, yeah, just, getting acclimated to the actual NBA type of game feel. But that wouldn't be a problem for these 2 guys who are, born to be superstars coming into the league and in their second year still dominating as far as for what they provide for their teams. So, yeah, definitely like these picks. And that's a great trio. And like I said, we both have that LeBron overlap. So once again, can't really go wrong there. Hugh, I don't think you had LeBron again. So let's see what you're working with over there. Did you come up with the merger?
Yeah, I got my merger. It's a couple tough picks. I took Luka over Dame. One reason for that, I know Dame's a little more experienced, a little more proven, but Luka's 8 years younger. So if I'm looking for win now, which Luka has shown that he's a hell of a player. The longevity for Luka just sold me there. I think he'd be a great lead ball handler for my team. He can do it all. I know he's averaging close to a triple double per game this year, which is pretty amazing for a point guard. He all crashes the boards. He has great vision. So that's why I went with Luka. This one was another tough pick for me. Between Jokic and Embiid, I took Jokic. A couple reasons for that. Jokic is 1 year younger, which I know it's not that big of a deal, but Embiid's injury history. Embiid, we all know he gets banged up quite often, and Jokic I don't think has quite the injury history that Embiid does. So if I was building my franchise, that is something I would definitely want to look at. Jokic, he's great, crashing the boards. I think he's improving every year, getting better every year. He has great vision for a big man, and he can knock down threes, which I like. I like if I was building a team to have a big man that can space out the floor a little bit and able to knock that down. One thing I thought about, I was thinking about not picking a center for a little bit, but was thinking about it, and I think most of the teams that are doing pretty good in the league this year all have an elite big man. You're talking about Utah. You're talking about You're talking about the Sixers. You're talking about Denver. I mean, all those teams that are up there have elite big men. So I'm like, well, I think that's important for my team. And then the other player I picked Giannis. I picked him because, One thing Embiid is over Jokic with is defense a little bit, in my opinion. I think Embiid is a little better of a defender. So I wanted to try to combat that a little bit. So I got Giannis. One biggest reason is because he's a great defender, and I think he would help make up for that a little bit. He has great vision, and he gets a lot of rebounds, and he can do about everything. And one thing I didn't know till I was looking up stats for tonight's episode, that Giannis is actually averaging more rebounds per game than Joel Embiid is this season. And that was incredibly surprising to me. It's not by much, just by like 0.2 or 3 more a game. But that was just surprising to me, how Giannis doesn't even play the center really. But yeah, those 3 guys would be my team.
Yeah, I like those picks. B, do you agree?
I think that that curveball caught me off guard, but it got me to thinking his reasoning. I didn't consider it, but yeah, all the top teams have a dominant big man that's, handling enforcement in the middle, as well as most of those big men are stretching the floor. So I think Jokic is a sleeper pick there. And yeah, his defense isn't as good, but it's improved every year. And so you're definitely got upside. That team could definitely win right now. And as young as all those guys are, they could win for a long time. I mean, you're talking even up to a 10-year window, assuming that the entire team stays healthy.
You're absolutely right. And Hugh, I think you've kind of touched on a new subject that we could talk about when we finish this up towards the second half or the end of this podcast, as far as, the teams having big man and their return to the league this year, as far as outstanding big man compared to teams that don't necessarily have the best big man. But yeah, like B just said, a 10-year stretch, easy. These guys so far don't really have any health issues. And the way they're playing, most of them like to share the ball. You mentioned some of their numbers, like especially the assist column for all of these guys. So they're not going to lack as far as sharing the ball. And I had a quick sneak question I wanted to ask y'all in regards to y'all's team, as far as like, okay, if we're talking about building a franchise, if you had to pick, where would you want your team to be located? I'll start with you, Hugh. Right now, yours sounds like it should be located somewhere in Europe because you got all European players. But yeah, did you have anything in mind, like off the top of your head? Where would you like to see your franchise start? It could be a city that already had one, or a new city that doesn't have anything right now as far as an NBA team.
I think
or it could be an overlap, like Brooklyn and New York. You could have a city that has 2 teams.
I think Baltimore is big enough to have a team. I think they're they obviously have baseball and football, so I'll pick them.
B?
Honestly, I think one city really needs a team again. They had a team. I'm surprised they haven't gone back into the market yet. I look for them to in the future, and I'm sure D's well aware of the city I'm talking about, and that's Seattle. They are a big basketball city. They had the Sonics for years. They had a lot of support there, a lot of good teams. Of course, they got relocated, and for several different reasons. But I think the city of Seattle definitely deserves to have a team back, and I think that the team would have plenty of support.
Yeah, it'd be great if Seattle can get a team. I think they are definitely in the running if the league were to expand here soon in the next few years. Hopefully the league would possibly expand into, not just 1 or 2 teams, but maybe up to 4 teams, just depending. But, definitely at least 2, maybe 1 in the West, 1 in the East. I'm kind of close to how Hugh is feeling. Maybe somewhere in Maryland or Virginia is where I would like my team. Or just to make things interesting, how about DC has another team, a team that you can actually depend on a lot more consistently? 2 teams share the same building. So,
it works well in LA.
It definitely works in LA, which is, obviously a way bigger city than metropolitan area than DC. So is New York. But yeah, I think it'd be cool, somewhere close to where we could see this team. But yeah, intercity rivalry. So But yeah, I wanted to touch base. Let's just talk in general as far as the league expansion. I think I've talked to people before, like, I had said a few years back, like, I feel like the league might need to start expanding or looking to expand maybe by 2025. I know COVID's probably set some things back pretty harsh financially for the league, but with all the talent coming in and the talent that's already in the league at this point, you look how deep some of these teams are. Back in the day, some of these players that are on the bench would definitely be starters, and some of the players that's like, the third man down could lead a franchise. Like, let me just throw out a name. Like, if we're talking about the Denver Nuggets, who is a very deep team, like a player like Michael Porter Jr., if you're expecting him to be healthy enough to start a franchise with, I mean, he's at times, or most times, should be the third option for the Denver Nuggets. But to hit up a franchise or be part of a 1-2 punch would be interesting. What are y'all thoughts are about the league expanding? Y'all think it's getting close to time where the league should consider expanding? I mean, guys come in the league now, not everybody can shoot like Curry, but that's what kids are practicing growing up. They're more athletic, they're faster, they're bigger than they used to be. So everybody has access, obviously, to YouTube. So they're studying the game a lot earlier and working on their skills to make it to the league. And like y'all touched on earlier, as far as the bigs are kind of returning, but they're not the traditional sense of bigs. They're passing and stretching the floor at times. Hugh, you have any thoughts about that league expansion?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest. I'm not extremely familiar with league expansion, and I don't know all the benefits and pros and cons and all that stuff about them. I do think it would be exciting to see some a few more teams added, like cities that had teams or have never had teams, maybe get a couple teams and players going to new places and all that kind of stuff. I do think that there's a lot of talent every draft class now coming in the league, and like you said, there's some very deep teams, like the Nuggets you brought up. I think the Sixers are pretty deep too, in my opinion. And just teams like that where there's guys on the bench who could definitely be starters. If there was a few other teams, and like you said, guys that, third, fourth guys on depth charts who could be like number 2 guys if, there was more teams. And I think all that would be interesting, and obviously more teams, more competition. And so I'm all for it.
Great. Yeah, that's good to hear your view of it. Yeah, it's okay if you don't know a lot of it. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it's just a rough concept, where, like I said, what are you seeing right now on the court? And if you think it dilute the league too much to take away from some teams to start, maybe just start out with 2 franchises, or if it's looking like, okay, in the next couple of years, like you're saying, with more talent coming in and some of the depth of the different draft classes, what could we be looking at? B, what do you think?
I think there's still a lot of untapped potential. I mean, there's a lot of good players that are playing overseas now in Europe, and in China especially has a very competitive league with NBA players that had to get pushed out because the talent pool is so thick right now. I mean, there are guys who can really play. Stephon Marbury, who was a fairly good player, went to China and played for several years after that at a high level.
And won championships over there for their team as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is a lot of, depth right now. I do wonder if it leads to any more parity, honestly. I mean, in the history of the league, they're generally just, if we're honest, 4, maybe 5 teams that can actually win a title in any given year, just because of how talent's distributed, how organizations are run, who's willing to spend the money, what free agents are willing to wear. Right. I do think it expands your market, expands your earning potential. More teams, more games, that's more money for the owners, more money for, that's out there for revenue. So I think it inevitably happens. The timeline, I don't know. I guess it depends on what happens with COVID. 2025, maybe a little early, in my opinion, maybe 27. But I think it is inevitable. I think the talent pool is there for it. And I think the market's there for it. The NBA market is growing because the game is fast paced and interesting to this generation that is not for just, things sitting around. And so, yeah, I think expansion is inevitable. But I'm not sure if it changes really the scope of the competition.
Yeah, you make a valid point there as far as, what teams are still competing almost a year-to-year basis as far as making it to the opportunity to win a championship. But at the same time, when you're looking at players that just want their time to basically shine on the court and take on a bigger role and have the opportunity to lead a team, I mean, when you're considering the NBA, obviously you want to put out quality product on the floor, but with the talent pool, you have guys that can easily, take over a franchise where, okay, if they're in a smaller market, then yeah, maybe they're not going to really push to be deep in the playoffs. But from a fan's perspective, it could be very entertaining to see a mild shakeup in the league, and then just see, like I say, if you're a big fan of a particular player who you feel like, man, if they had a bigger role, they could definitely have a launching platform, so to speak. Like I said, once again, just Michael Porter Jr., if he's able to just basically be in a Jeremy Grant situation, like what Jeremy Grant has this year with Detroit, just kind of free range, a high usage rate as far as him being on his team, and just being able to explore what his talents can do, and then as a team or organization, just try to build with that and add a few pieces. And obviously you have the draft to do that as well, with more talent coming in. Anything else y'all want to add to that?
I said everything I needed to say.
Well, let's go back and talk about the bigs a little bit. You mentioned a few teams. Can you give us the teams again, Hugh? That
yeah, it's like Utah and Sixers and Denver and who else? I think that was all I said.
Yeah, I'm sure we're probably leaving something out because this is kind of spur of the moment topic for this episode. But yeah, the bigs. I mean, with them being versatile and with teams looking at how to utilize players in a different way. I mean, when you talk about Jokic, he is a different player than a Rudy Gobert. But you look at the Jazz, they're sitting at number one. So Rudy Gobert is definitely doing something right as far as how he works with his teammates and what his role is. I mean, he's an outstanding rebounder. Another candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, has already won it before or twice before. And just somebody who means a lot to their team. And then you look at Jokic as far as his ability to do basically whatever. If you're looking at his stats, I mean, assist, rebound, pass, score, all that good stuff there. And I mean, I guess you could consider Giannis kind of a big, but he's not really a center. So like you said, Embiid with his footwork, how he plays, shout out to Dwayne, because he talked about how Embiid's like a guard and he kind of needs to, play like a big, but the league has changed and players have evolved. I mean, for a while there, it looked like bigs weren't going to be really useful much, as far as being a 7 foot or over giant, just clogging up the paint. Like you don't really see a JaVale McGee type of player just kind of being on a team and having a large role. Like they're great for backups and for plugs when people get hurt or substitutions late in the game or just for rest purposes. But when you talk about a player like a Bam Adebayo, who can also pass the ball and do multiple things on the court as well as score, then you're able to be in an old school position, but you're able to change the shape of how the game is played and really stretch out the floor and make the defense have to react to that versus just somebody playing off of you because you're only good at doing one thing. YB, what's up?
So So I think we're sleeping on one center who kind of has been an anchor for their team, and Anthony Davis. I mean, he's
shout
like
out to Anthony Davis.
Yeah, he's like the quintessential like versatile big man. He passes, he defends, he can shoot the three at a high clip, and he's also
And
an
he's a great
exceptional rebounder.
A great free throw shooter as well.
Yeah, I mean he does a lot of things, and at a big size, him and back in the day, Boogie Cousins also played that style for a while. Not as much anymore, but yeah, Anthony Davis, I think, is like your quintessential like new age big man who can do a lot of things and spread the floor as well as protecting the rim.
Shout out to Brandon from work. I was talking to him today, and we were talking a little bit about this actual subject. And, he said you can go back and credit Chris Bosh for some of this because of how he changed and evolutionized the game when he came into the league. And he was definitely a knockdown three-point shooter early on in his career and kept that consistency as he grew up on the Toronto Raptors team. And then obviously went over to the Miami Heat, always had that shooter's mentality from the 3-point range. Like if he had the open shot, a lot of times it was in the corner, but after his game picked up, it was just basically all over the arc. And somebody who was reliable as far as stretching out the floor, like you really had to guard that and not particularly leave him wide open because he wasn't afraid to pull those shots. So, back then where a lot of people in general, as far as guards, weren't taking a whole lot of shots unless from the outside, unless you were just that type of prolific scorer. Him as a standing big that can play power forward and or the center at times, definitely hitting those shots. I think that definitely changed some of the mold where, okay, how do you defend this guy? Because they have something that we don't have. And then on the, as far as on offense and then on the defensive end, like, okay, if you have a stagnant big guy, they have to kind of figure out a way to chase him down or chase him off of the 3-point line or he's just wide open. And then that just, led into, like I said, when he went to Miami, the revolution of the small ball or the evolution of the small ball, where you just kind of saw that take shape with Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James, with LeBron occasionally playing center in some points of his career there. So, that is kind of like the beginning of that, because you still had dominant Shaq in the league, but it was starting to change. Not that Shaq couldn't still be dominant, but it was a new generation of players coming as far as bigs, and he was definitely the mold for it. So if you couldn't follow that model, then you're gonna be a few steps behind.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add, if you look at just a couple teams come to mind like this season, Brooklyn. Like we all think, Brooklyn's a great team, and we all think Brooklyn can, go pretty far in the playoffs. But we just keep saying one thing, they have everything they need. It's just a big man, and we think without that, that's gonna hold them down to some extent. That's why like we're kind of saying, maybe Aldridge or Drummond or Boogie or somebody. They need to get one of those guys in there just to make a difference there. And another team, I think about the Warriors. The Warriors have, in my opinion, great shooters. They have basically everything they need, minus Clay being injured. But it's just the big man, and it shows game in and game out. I mean, we were watching the Lakers game last night, and it's just like almost every shot it looked like the Lakers were putting up, they were getting offensive boards, and it's nothing the Warriors could do about it, and they're just lacking that size. So I just think, maybe not, you don't need someone elite, but I mean, you need someone definitely, I'd say above average to help get in there and clean up and do all that kind of stuff. So I think teams that are lacking that aren't going to have much success.
Yeah. You spoke of the Lakers, which makes me think to give a shout out to Marc Gasol, because he was another big guy who could shoot the threes very well, as far as he might not have taken very many or very often, but he could definitely knock them down. And that's one of the reasons why the Lakers picked him up this year, because of his ability to stretch the floor in offense. B, did you have to follow up with Hugh or?
No, I think
mention?
I think he's right. You know, you need that above average big man in the league now. It's really come full circle, where it used to be dominant centers ran the league, and then all of a sudden it was point guards that ran the league, and it's really come full circle because the big men have learned and adapted. Like, great players are great players, and I think it transcends, you know, eras. We can, you know, debate, as most people do, what era was greatest, but great players find a way to be great. And so we've seen these centers who were going to be great anyway just evolve with the game, and it's great to watch, and it's definitely a piece that every team that wants to compete is going to have to add.
Yeah, so definitely keep a lookout for the bigs as far as when the market opens, and you know, if there's bigs out there for free agents or here sooner than the off season with the trade market and the buyout market. You know, people who pick up the right pieces that fit their team. You know, there's a small sample list of bigs that's going to be available or currently is available, but you know, you definitely got to make a move on this. And yeah, the bigs are feeling like they're going to run the league this year as far as putting somebody over the top. So yeah, shout out to the bigs. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. You know, we definitely covered what we wanted to cover as far as you know, franchise expansion and you know, touch a little bit on the bigs and whatnot. Hugh, you have any shout outs?
I was just thinking one other team I'd like to add that I think is just a big away would be Boston. I know we've talked about Boston on the podcast before, and they just slipped my mind when I was talking about teams. But Boston, they're lacking, you know, that great big man there, and I think if they get that, then that would help them out tremendously. But
yeah, I think they
yes,
a little cheap because they thought, you know, Tristan Thompson. I mean, I was thinking the same thing, not necessarily being completely dominant, but just somebody, yeah, who can fill in that role because they signed them in the offseason. And yeah, that's not working out quite the way they thought or way I thought as well.
Yeah.
Were you shouting out? I didn't mean to cut you off like that. I just wanted to
shout out. I'll give a shout out to Dwayne. You shouted him out earlier. Shout out Dwayne. Thanks for watching the podcast and commenting. I know you have an issue with how much I like Embiid, but I appreciate debating with you. I'll take that debate any day.
Dwayne, keep the comments coming. You know, give us a like and a sub if you haven't. I think you are sub because you're always right on the money with our topics. So, B, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you and what you've been up to. And thanks again for joining us on the podcast.
It's always a good time. This was a fun topic. It went in directions I wasn't expecting, and it was really organic and great, and I enjoyed it. You can find me on Twitch at YourBud36. Really excited. We will be having Overwatch pickup games this coming Saturday, March 20th at 8:30 Eastern time. It's going to be really exciting. Hoping to get some good participation, some good games, and it'll definitely be something to check out. Like I say, we got the brand new Big Slam emote that just came out to go along with our Hey Gamer, also co-designed by D. There's some really great looking emotes. If nothing else, definitely come by and check them out. See if they're for you. And like I say, we are bad at games and we have fun doing it. But like I say, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and look forward to having more of these in the future. But yeah, come on by Twitch.tv/YourBud36.
Yeah, thank you, YB. I appreciate you being on here. Hugh as well. I guess I should give a shout out to Cousin Fred. You know, this is your concept, and you know, we started out with it on the first part of this episode and finishing it here. Maybe we get to catch up with you and you can, you know, do a small plug and tell us what you had ready for your thoughts. But yeah, we're sorry you couldn't make it with us, but hopefully, like I said, we can definitely revisit that and, you know, catch not related to this one, but just another one. So we're trying to put out steady content. You can find us on KISH on anchor.fm. You can also find us on, of course, our YouTube page under KISH as well. Hugh, I'm gonna give it back to you. I think you have some final shout outs. What's going on over there with you, buddy?
Nah, I'm good, brother. I'm good.
You good? I like that you're all happy and giddy.
Yeah, I enjoyed the podcast.
Give one last shout out and one plug. Who should subscribe to this that you know that hasn't? Or you
My mom should subscribe. That's who should subscribe.
You putting your mama in this?
I'm putting her on blast right now on YouTube.
Why don't you shout out Angie and get her to watch this?
I think
Shout out Angie.
I ain't gonna bring shout out Angie.
There you go. You heard it there, Angie. That was a special shout out for you. I hope you're watching. He will give you the plug tomorrow. So yeah, once again, thank y'all for being here and supporting us. And we hope to see y'all here in the near future. So peace and love. Peace, everybody.
See y'all.
Later, gamers.